Welcome, everyone, to the 209 Journey podcast. I'm your host, Luis Urbano. And in today's episode, I'm going to be interviewing someone who a lot of you who listen to our local radio, especially if you listen to 97.7, 98.3 KWIN, you will recognize him, Lucas G. It's going to be really awesome being able to hear a story about his time with KWIN and just overall his radio career and whatnot. He's actually a person that I would listen to on the radio often. I still remember all those days going to high school over at Davis High and always having KWIN on, or even sometimes in class, KWIN being played on the radio and hearing the morning show with Lucas and back then Amanda as well. Those are great days. And I don't think I ever imagined I would be here interviewing him now, but he's a part of the 209 as well. He moved over to Stockton a while back, and I'm really excited to talk to him about how it's been like for him to be here in the 209. But before we introduce Lucas here on the show, I want to remind everyone, if you have not followed our social media yet, please give us a follow. You can find the podcast at the 209 Journey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Check it out. I might be starting to do some live shows whenever there's anything going on in the community, and even some live interviews as well on the socials. So go ahead and give it a follow to find out when those get posted. Also, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening to it right now. It really, truly helps me out a lot. And you'll also be able to find out when new episodes get posted. I know previously I've said that I'm going to try and post each week. And as y'all can see, it hasn't happened quite yet. But it is something I'm working towards, and I think I might actually now finally be able to have a weekly schedule, and it'll be my goal to actually get new episodes up each Wednesday morning. So perfect day of the week, I think, in my opinion, for everyone to be able to listen to the shows and still have Thursday, Friday if you listen to this show on your way to work, maybe on your way back home, or even on your lunch break as well. All right, so welcome to 209 Journey, Lucas. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going really good. Beautiful Tuesday. It's Tuesday, right? Yeah, it is Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, much better weather. I'm glad we're out of the 100-degree weather that we experienced last week, so gotta enjoy it.
We had some rain today. I loved it.
I know, right? Yeah, we can't complain about the rain, especially during this time, because we need it.
Heck yeah.
Awesome. Well, hey, man, I'm really glad you were able to hop on here on the podcast. As I mentioned before, I grew up listening to you, and to be able to talk to you here is a bit surreal. And I keep saying that, I think, of all my guests, because, I never even imagined that I would be a podcaster myself. And here I am, like 3 years into doing this and, enjoying it ever since I got started. So first things first, I want to know a little bit more about where you got your interest in the radio industry. Like, walk us through where that interest came from.
When I was a kid, I loved music. So I used to go out. I'm really old. So I used to buy 45s, which are singles. Do you know what the singles are? And most people don't even know what they are anymore, but they're like little single records, where it's like and I would get it, and you'd have to put a adapter in to play it on a record player. And I'd buy all of these singles, like Super Freak by Rick James, Give It to Me Baby, Rick James, Marvin Gaye. I'd get all these 45s, and I used to play like I was a DJ. I had a pretend radio station at my house, and I was a DJ, and I'd get up on Saturday mornings because I didn't have school, and I'd start at 6 a.m. and play all these songs to like 8 or 9 in the morning, and pretend like I had an audience. And that was the extent of it. And I always enjoyed listening to the radio. And then when I got to college, I was interning at the State House. I went to college in Boston, actually. And I was interning at the Massachusetts State House. And my RA had a job at a radio station in Boston. He asked if I'd be interested. And I said, yeah, absolutely. And so I started to do radio, and it was a lot more fun than working at the State House. So I changed things up, graduated college, and then got into radio full time. And I've been doing it for 28 years now.
Wow. Hey, that's so awesome when you hear stories about people doing something when they were kids, and you grow up and you actually end up doing what you enjoyed doing when you were a kid. So it's awesome to see you actually be able to accomplish that dream.
Yeah, it was weird because I remember when I first got my first shift at the college radio station, it was like kind of weird to me to be, thinking, wow, I'm going to be actually on the air doing a show. I never thought it would happen. I wanted to do it, but it just seemed like it's kind of like, playing baseball for the San Francisco Giants. It's like a lot of people want to do it, but you just don't ever think it's going to happen.
You never know, right? I always say things could happen, but you just got to try it. I always tell that to people, right? There's some careers that just seem like unattainable to some, but I always say, well, if you don't try it, then you might never even know if you even had a shot, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, let's get into your early radio career. I was hearing an interview you did for someone else, and I know you've kind of been through different radio stations, but walk me through like some of the ones that you've been at and just traveling around the country, I guess, to different stations.
Oh yeah. No, I had my first radio show ever at a little radio station in a little city, Worcester, Massachusetts, which is about it's like Stockton to San Francisco. It's on the it's about an hour away, an hour and 15 minutes away from Boston. So that was my first show ever, was there, and I worked there for 2 years, and then I went to this little town in Burlington, Vermont, because this station in Burlington was putting people in big markets. I wanted to be in California, and I thought if I went to Burlington, Vermont, it would get me there. And I was there for 2 years, right on the Canadian border. I was an hour and a half from Montreal, so I used to go to Montreal a lot. That was like the big city that was close by. And then from there, I went to Florida, and I was in West Palm Beach, just outside of Miami, and I was there for 11 months, and it was crazy. It was fun, a little too much fun. That's why I left. And I was doing evenings. I wanted to move up. I wanted to get off of nights. I'd done nights at that point for 5 years. And I was like, it's time for me to step up and move from nights. So I went to Denver, Colorado, and did afternoons there for 5 years. And then went to Fresno and got my first morning show in Fresno. And I was there for 2 years. And then I went to Wichita, Kansas, and I was there for 2 years, and then came to Stockton, California, where I've been ever since. And, it's definitely the highlight of my career at KWIN. It's been my longest run. It's been the most success. I remember when I was at Denver, I was very successful in Denver, and I never thought I'd reach that height of success again. And then I came here and I did. And it's just been a blessing ever since I came here.
Wow. That's so cool that you went to different places, but ultimately your goal was to get to California, and you were able to get there.
I told my dad in 1987 I was going to live, in the San Francisco area, somewhere around San Francisco, and here I am, an hour and a half from San Francisco. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Hey, I consider just any place in the 209 as still being close by, right? Without paying the excessive.
Yeah, without paying those prices. Yeah, without paying those prices.
Yeah, that's why we're so great around here too. It's you're centrally located to everything, and
I love it. I wouldn't want to. I mean, people say I actually wouldn't want to live anywhere else because, I'm an hour and a half at most from San Francisco. I'm 45 minutes from Sacramento. I'm 5.5 hours from LA. I mean, you're near San Jose. It's just great. Near the mountains. I mean, it's great.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really great. Well, let's jump right into KWIN, and I want to know how it was like for you on your first day being here in the Central Valley, specifically in the 209, I should say. How was it like for you on your first day? You remember?
Yeah, I remember everything about it. It was actually pretty incredible because I had a horrible experience in Wichita, Kansas. It was absolutely miserable. Everything crumbled in my life. And I remember talking to my dad the night before KWIN called, talking about how I'm giving up on the dream of getting back to California. I was going through a divorce. I was about to get fired too. I wasn't fired yet, but I could see the writing on the wall. And I was going to manage a Chuck E. Cheese in Wichita, Kansas. That was my fallback plan for when the job ended there. And I said, I'm just going to give up on it. My dad said, well, you never know. Just hang in there. And then I got a call, and it was from Michael Newman, who was a consultant for KWIN at the time. And he asked me if I was interested in coming back to California. I said, heck yeah, I am. And he goes, the job's in Stockton. I said, let's do it. And he goes, Louis Diaz, the program director, is going to call you. And he called me and he told me, this is what the job pays. Take it or leave it. I said, I'm taking it. And I got in the car with my family. We drove here in a beat up Nissan Maxima that had like 4-ball tires. It's a miracle we made it here. Pulled in Stockton on Saturday, was on the air on Monday with Amanda King. And it's just amazing. I get choked up thinking about how amazing that is. I never really talked about the moment of just, I came here just hoping to have a job and get to California. And if it didn't work out, I'd do something else, but I'd at least be in a place I want to live. And then, 15 years later, I'm still on the air at KWIN, and I've had the most success of my career. It's just an absolute blessing.
Wow, that's really quick. Getting there one day, and then 2 days later, you're
two days later on the air. I had like 3 conversations with Amanda, I think, before we went on the air, and our chemistry was like this. And she even said, "It feels like I've been on the air with you for years," because we had such a great chemistry. And that was day one. That was way back. It was in November. I remember my first day on the air was November 10th, and it was just an incredible day.
What year was that, by the way?
2008. 2008.
Oh, okay.
14 years. Yeah, 14 years. 2008. Yep.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I remember those days with you and Amanda, and I could tell. Anytime you turn the radio on, you guys had really good chemistry, and that's what really I think makes for a good show, a good podcast, wherever it might be. Right? It's that chemistry you have with your co-host.
Yeah. Just and when you have conversations and you're on the air with your friends, there's nothing better. I literally, since I came here, I haven't worked. I always say I don't work because I'm just on the air talking and having a conversation every morning. The toughest part is the walk from the bed to the shower. Once I'm out of the shower, I'm good to go and ready for work.
Yeah, I think I always say this to people, right? That's the dream. When you're looking at a career, if you're not feeling like you're working, then you're living the dream, basically.
That's amazing. It's just an incredible feeling.
So it sounds like you had a really good time on your first day. Now let's talk about, who did you interview first?
My first ever interview ever in radio was Terrell Davis, who was a Super Bowl champ. I wasn't even a Denver Broncos fan. I really didn't know anything about him. I know he won the Super Bowl, but I was at that point in time when I interviewed Terrell Davis, I think I'd been on the air in Denver for 2 weeks. And like I said, I wasn't a Broncos fan. I really wasn't following sports as religiously as I am right now, so I didn't really know much about him. And my program director walks in and he goes, "Hey, did I tell you you're interviewing Terrell Davis today?" And I said, "No." And he goes, "You are." And he's here. And he walks in. He walks in the studio, and I'm like, "Oh my God, he's really here." And I know nothing about him. And it led to a great interview. I had a conversation with him. We talked about so many things other than football. And the program director after said, "You did a really good job." Because I was worried for a second because you handled it really well.
Oh, that's good. Oh, I can't imagine, right? It's like, boom, you got 5 minutes.
It's like I got walking in. I'm like, oh my gosh, I really knew nothing about him. I hadn't been in Denver that long, and to people in Denver, that team is like the holy grail and everything. And I was like, I really don't even know that much about this guy.
Oh yeah, well, luckily you guys talked about other things, and I think it always makes for a good interview. I think especially when you're interviewing an athlete, if you could talk about other things other than the sport, it still makes for a good interview too, right?
Oh, because yeah. It actually led to a friendship. It led to a friendship. I became friends with him off of that interview, and he introduced me to a bunch of guys in the team. And then from that moment on, it was weird. I had football players in the studio all the time. They'd come to my club nights. I was like, everybody looks at these guys like they're heroes. And I'm like, they're guys that are coming out to my club nights and hanging out in the studio. It's pretty cool.
Wow. Yeah, that's really cool. I gotta say, just in general, when you first saw that celebrity that maybe you admired growing up, who was it? Was there ever a celebrity where you couldn't even believe that you were actually talking to them?
The weird thing is that I remember when I went to the Billboard Music Awards, I was broadcasting from the Billboard Music Awards. I was really in awe of, because whenever you go to these award shows, you're in a room and there's like a ton of radio stations there. And then there's just celebrities walking around. And I remember just walking in, and Uncle Phil from the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air walked in right next to me. And I remember thinking, this is such and he's not even like the biggest star or a guy that I think I watched the show, obviously. I love the show. But walking in like with him right next to me, that was incredible. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I go to the buffet and I'm making my plate, and James Hetfield from Metallica is like in line with me, and we're just having small talk. I think those moments to me were like the most of like where I really can't believe I'm here. Like, this is just absolutely amazing to me. And then all the like St. John is a on-air personality I've looked up to my whole career. He is on the air in San Francisco, and he was in the same room as me and like interviewing the same people. And I was like, this is like, I don't want to be anywhere else but right here, right now. It's just an amazing feeling.
Oh, that's awesome. And I'm sure, as your career went on, you kind of lose that like nervousness if you have any
Yeah,
of that too, right?
yeah,
Because you
yeah,
see it more as just humans, right? Which I think is what
yeah.
helps, right?
Yeah, they're just like you. Because another great moment was at one of the awards shows. I think it was the MTV VMAs. My engineer was running late, and Snoop Dogg's sitting at the table, and I'm like, hey, my engineer's not here, so I can't dial into the radio station. I understand if you want to get up and leave. He goes, no. He goes, we'll sit down. We'll just talk until the engineer gets here. It's all good. And they can be really nice, regular people. It's like, there's a lot of times people say, oh, they're mean or this or that, but I've had great experiences with all of them.
Oh, that's great. I'm glad to hear that. uh, Now, but moving back to your time at KWIN too, what would you say is your favorite moment thus far?
Guys, there's been so many amazing moments at KWIN, but I think the first moment that really kicked in is that when we hit number one in the ratings, and everybody in the radio station was excited and proud, and after the run I had in Wichita, I felt justified. I was at that moment in time like, actually, I can do this, because the last guy I had worked for said I couldn't. And then when I came here and Louis believed in me and took a chance with me, and we hit number one, and just the excitement that was in the building, it was just absolutely amazing. And I had reached an accomplishment that I never thought I'd be able to reach again.
Oh, well, yeah, that's really awesome. And I'm really glad that you guys saw that too. And of course, anyone at 209, I think, knows KWIN. They might not know
Oh
other
yeah.
radio stations, but KWIN is the one that has always been there. And I think there's been other ones that have, unfortunately folded, and it's just has happened. But you guys are still there, strong and going on. Now let's talk about the flip side of that too. What would you say has been your most embarrassing moment in the radio?
Gosh, it's been quite a few embarrassing moments. I think the interview with Kanye West was I interviewed Kanye West in 2003, and he was not dialed in, and he was a little distant. And when we handed him the liner, his name was spelled wrong, and he's very sensitive about that. And this was like way back in 2003, so he wasn't like a household name that he is right now. And he spelled his name obviously Kanye, and it was spelled Kayne on the liner sheet. And he was so mad, he took a pen, crossed it out, and wrote it correctly. And then from that moment on, he was kind of a little distant in the interview, and not he wasn't. I shouldn't say rude, but he was definitely not. He was giving one-word answers.
That's understandable. I mean, I think there's some people that can take more offense to that, right? I mean, but then it's always lingering in their head, right? So it's
yeah.
yeah.
He wasn't happy, and that was definitely a moment where I was like, yeah, okay, that wasn't so good.
Oh yeah, had it happened now, maybe he doesn't even do the interview, right? Now
Yeah,
that he's
no,
more
now
of
I'd
a
probably get up and
household
leave. Yeah.
Has there been one that has happened to you live, like where you just have to move on and
Oh yeah.
yeah.
I've had back in the day, I've had like the tapes of callers when we had reel to reel. I'd have those, like those weren't queued up, and I would go to it and there'd be nobody there, and that's super embarrassing. I've had stuff air that shouldn't be on the air. Like, the mic was on, and it's on there by mistake, and it's like, oops. and that's super embarrassing too. It's like, all of a sudden, you get a message and it's like, hey dude, your mic's on. It's like, oh, okay.
It's like, hit the mute. I don't know if you guys have like a light or something.
Oops, yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, I can't imagine that as someone who does live shows as well on social media. It happens, right?
Yeah, I know.
Sometimes
It's like, and you hear stuff that they, you don't want them to hear. And it's other things are like when you say a joke and it doesn't go over well, It's like, okay.
Yeah, it's the most challenging thing I think about doing anything live, right? It's like you can't really
Yeah.
go back, you can't cut it out of the show. It's just there.
Yeah.
Uh, well, now I want to talk about 2020. We know how tough a year it was for everyone, and I'm curious for you guys in the radio industry how it was for you guys, right? Considering that you're still doing the show, you could still do it from home and whatnot, but how was it for you? Doing shows in studio, you got your people right there, right? But now you have to see everyone through like just the screen. Walk us through how 2020 was for you guys.
Yeah, it was very bizarre. At the time in March of 2020, I was on the air with Nikki Blades, and I wanted to stay at the radio station. I was trying my hardest, and she went home, and we would do things over a Comrex at first, which I didn't see her. I would talk to her and just hear her, and I was back in the studio, and that was working out really well. And then I by April I had to be home, so they didn't want anybody in the building. So I went home in April and I started doing it on video. And at first it was very awkward, very weird. But then we started incorporating the Facebook Lives and Instagram Lives with the broadcast, and you just like anything else, you wind up getting used to it. And Nikki and I made it work, and we did the Facebook Lives, and our chemistry picked up right where it was at. We had a great chemistry, and we kept the show so much fun, and we had a blast. And what we realized was that it's actually easier to get a lot of interviews when you're able to have it, on video from their house, just like we're doing right now. Like, this is something we didn't do prior to COVID. So, like if we were to interview Too Short, he'd have to come into the studio. But what was cool is we got to interview Too Short, and we did it. He was at his house, and it was a really cool thing. And then, about halfway through COVID, I transitioned to a new co-host. Nikki, moved on to another station, and then Lonnie came in, and the first year that I was on the air with Lonnie was all through video. So it's weird how you wind up getting used to everything.
Oh, that's interesting. So you guys, when you guys started, you guys were just on video, hadn't met in person. It was just all.
Yeah, I'd met her in person, but not as
Okay.
a radio host. Like, I knew who she was, and I'd seen her around the building, but we didn't really have a rapport yet, and or a chemistry, and so we learned how to do the show together, via StreamYard, which is like a Zoom program. And we started out like that, and then all of a sudden now we're in the studio together, and it's like, but yeah, it just shows how you adapt, and how no matter how crazy things go, you wind up making them work.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, we use StreamYard as well too. I use it for all my live shows too, and I can relate to you too. I mean, some of my co-hosts hadn't met in person. Everything was just virtual, and then met them in person, and that chemistry was still there. So
Yeah, it's
it
really
was definitely
amazing.
good.
It's really amazing. Yeah.
Well, speaking of co-hosts, throughout your career in general, who would you say has been your favorite co-host, or the one that you felt more connected with when you did a show?
Well, they're all like my I guess you could say, I don't want to say children because they're not children, but like they're all, I love them all, and they all have special talents in every single way. Some bring out more of a vibe of controversy. Some bring out a vibe of sexiness. Some bring out a vibe of political, and psychological vibes. So every one of them has had their talent. I've worked with so many amazing co-hosts, and the ones that have moved on are all doing huge in their careers right now, whether it's in radio or whether they're doing other stuff. I have two former co-hosts who are therapists now. So I love each one of them. I still talk to every single co-host I've had. I still talk to them, at least weekly. Up till now, right now, from my first co-host to my current co-host, I talk to him at least once a week.
Oh, wow. Hey, that's really great that you've been able to create all these connections, and that that they've moved on, some in the radio, some in other careers. But it's always great when you can have a chemistry off air too, right? Because I feel
Oh
like
yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
that's
been
the
friends
key.
with every one of them. Yeah, I've been friends with every single one of my co-hosts. I've been blessed to have. I've worked with everybody who's been really nice, and we've gotten along.
Well, that's awesome. Well, I got to throw in a question here. Shout out to my uncle Freddie, who's a big fan of K1 as well. But he wanted to ask you, what's your favorite artist that you've interviewed thus far?
My favorite artist that I've ever interviewed, I would say Usher. Usher would be my favorite. Yeah, Usher would be my favorite. And as far as biggest artists, I don't know if it'd be Kanye, Beyonce, or Jay-Z or Diddy. Those are probably the biggest ones. But yeah, I'd say Usher's my favorite.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, so iconic. I still remember, all his hits from the 2000s. I mean,
Oh
who
yeah.
can't forget? Yeah, right. I mean,
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh yeah. He's grown with the times. I love how Usher's grown. You know, he's
did
he's
you
just he's changed up.
did you interview him like before? Like he
Yeah, I
was in his
interviewed
prime?
him
Yeah.
in 2001.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah. That was right when he was starting to be a big name out there.
Yeah, yeah, and I got to hang out with him in a club, and yeah, no, he's just a spectacular, and he has a vibe, um, like it's not a regular vibe. Like certain people, when you meet them, like Diddy, Beyonce, Usher, Kanye, it doesn't matter when you meet them, whether it's the beginning of their career, mid career, or currently, you get this feeling like they're not like regular people. There's something special or something different. There's like a light. It's weird.
Yeah. That's how they got there, I guess, right? That's what
Yeah,
makes them special, and it's good that they have something different, right? Otherwise,
yeah,
it'd be way too easy to be them.
yeah. Exactly.
Well, I want to know in all your career thus far, what have you found it to be the most challenging part about just being in the industry?
Well, it's funny. In this industry, and like I'd say it's the same thing probably in acting or television or sports, is that people volunteer their opinion about what they think about you, and sometimes it's not always nice, and you have to get used to people saying rude things to you, and you just have to just dismiss it and move on. That's probably the most challenging thing, because I've gotten a lot of compliments, but at the same time I've gotten
Mhm.
a lot of insults. And that's probably the most challenging thing, is that you have to deal with a lot of people volunteering negative opinions.
Yeah, it's definitely something that comes with the job, but if you could take both of them, right, it works out, right?
Yeah. I
So
mean, the thing is that you can't take your insults too seriously, and you can't take your compliments too serious. If you don't live by compliments and insults, if you just kind of just take it as it is and just live your life, you'll be fine. It's like when you start buying into all the compliments, then when you get the insults hit really hard.
yeah, oh, that's so true. Yeah, it's best to take those compliments lightly and just yeah.
Yeah, and just move on.
So I want to know, out of all the guests that you've had, which one has been the most challenging? Have you had an interview where it's just you don't even know if it's even going to be on the air, or?
Yeah, Blue Cantrell. I don't know if you remember her. She had the song "Hit 'Em Up" style. She was extremely challenging. She was very negative. Carlos Mencia, the day I interviewed him, he was awful. I don't know what he did the night before, but he was just a terrible interview. Um, those are probably the two most challenging.
And how do you?
Kanye was difficult too, but
Oh
those
yeah.
two, the Kanye was difficult, but it wasn't super challenging. Blue Cantrell and yeah, she was extremely challenging, and Carlos Mencia was awful.
Oh no. um, and how do you typically deal with those challenging interviews? Like, is there something you do to, like, I guess, overcome the awkwardness of the
Yeah, I
situation?
try to make it less awkward, and then when I see it's not going anywhere, I'm like, okay, well, thank you so much for the time. Have a great day. Because if you're not going to get anything out of them, there's no reason to continue the conversation. So, like with Carlos Mencia, I think we talked to him probably for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then we're like, okay, we'll talk to you later. Take care. Have a good day. Thank you for your time.
Oh, and these were live too. They weren't like
Yeah,
pre-recorded.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah. So,
oh yeah,
yeah,
that's even more
yeah,
challenging right there.
yeah. You just move on and be like, okay, we'll talk to you later.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's got to be something else when you do it live and it's not going well, right? It's like, all right, let's
Yeah,
let's move on. Let's play music because people are
yes,
here.
yeah, it's not going anywhere, and then the people know that they're being a jerk when they hear the interview. It's like, okay, yeah, that guy's being a jerk.
Yeah. I don't understand how people could be like that, especially when it's live too, right? It's like you're hurting your image.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everybody's going through something. I mean, I guess maybe, Blue Cantrell just seemed rude. Carlos Mencia might have had a rough night or something. Maybe he had a rough morning. I don't know. He definitely didn't want to be on. He definitely didn't want to do the interview. That's for sure.
What was it like right there in the studio, or was
No,
this
he was on the phone. He was on the phone.
okay.
Blue Cantrell I interviewed in LA. And I get, I mean, maybe I think I was one of the last interviews of the day for her. So I think she's probably tired and annoyed, and she took it out on me.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Well, I got one last thing, and I wanted to ask you if there's a message you give to people who are interested in maybe not only being in the radio industry, but again, just in general in the broadcast industry.
I think if you want to be in the broadcast industry, I think you should start like what you're doing and get a podcast, get a following, get that off the ground, be an interesting person, live an interesting life, and then put that interesting life on the radio. I think that, especially, I think it's always been the case, but I think now so more than ever with the fewer jobs, I think you really have to be interesting and stand out to be on the air and keep the audience and keep them listening.
Yeah, it's definitely not for everyone, and it's one of those things that you got to practice to really try to get
and you got to be fun. You have to be fun. Like, I mean, people want to hang out and listen to a fun person. You always want to, if you're going to be on the radio, you always have to think, well, would people want to hang out with me? Like, would they, does my personality gravitate that I'm putting on the air? Is it gravitate? Are people going to want to listen to me? Or are they going to want to hang out? If the answer is yes, then you can have a career.
Yeah. Or well, people want to interview me, and in your case, the answer would be yeah too, because that's why I'm trying to interview you, because I know how you're.
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome. Well, yeah, I won't take any more of your time, Lucas, but greatly appreciate you just gave me the time here on the 209 journey, and just describing to us what it's like to be in radio. And it really looks like there's a lot of great things going on with KWIN, and I hope the station's always there. I don't know if you guys are going to transition to like just I don't know, satellite radio one day, but heck, I always want to hear you guys. And
I hope not. I'll be, as long as KWIN exists and as long as they'll have me, I'll be on the air at KWIN. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere unless they choose to make me go somewhere. Oh
yeah. Hey, and if you got to create your own thing, I know you have a lot of following. I'd definitely be tuning in as well, because we definitely want to keep hearing you around here.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome. All right, cool. Well, thank you so much for being on, man. Have a good one.
Definitely. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It means a lot.
Well, thank you so much again to Lucas G from KWIN for joining the 209 Journey podcast tonight. I was really glad to be able to hear his story about how he arrived over here to KWIN and just his time here. It's really awesome to hear these stories and to know that you could be there, and if it's something that you've always dreamed about doing career-wise, if you set your mind to it, you can actually make it there. And I think his story is a perfect example of that. Growing up, as a child, having that dream of already being in radio and kind of feeling already like he's already there, and later on in life, wanting to make it to California to be on his own radio show as well. And after going through a couple of different stations, ultimately ending up here in Stockton and enjoying it every single day, and making a really long career from it. And as I mentioned to him earlier, I really hope that the show keeps on going and never retire, Lucas. Keep on having the morning block party, because it is quite a popular show here in the 209. And I would venture to say that it's probably the most popular radio show in the 209. And just in general, KWIN is probably the most popular radio station in the area. And he did mention earlier that they had actually gotten the highest ratings of radio stations at one point as well. And I would not be surprised if they're still number one out there. And it just goes to show all the great work that Lucas and his team have done over the years. And that they're still going. They've adapted to the situation with 2020. And I'm really glad that they're doing live shows to this day. And that's actually helped them grow even more. And if you have not seen them, go follow them on Facebook. They have their KWIN morning blog party show. They'll sometimes live stream it there. If you're new to the show, I invite you to check out other episodes that I've recorded thus far. I've interviewed people from all over the 209, and we'll continue to do so. And as I've mentioned before, my goal in this podcast is to be able to interview people from all over the 209. At one point, I hope to actually be able to say that I've had representation from every single city, town from the 209. And if anyone isn't from the area, they'll be able to go back through the library and find an interview I've done with someone from that specific city or town. So thank you for tuning in to this show, for the support. Follow the podcast on social media if you haven't yet, at the 209 Journey on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for more information on upcoming episodes and also on any new episodes that get posted as well. If you are on a podcast platform that allows you to subscribe, I invite you to hit that subscribe button so you find out when every episode is posted. I am going to be trying to go on a weekly schedule here, posting new episodes. Wednesday mornings is going to be my goal. And I do have a new show scheduled for next Wednesday. So for sure, you'll have one next Wednesday. And I'm going to keep on going after that too. I have a couple of guests that I'll be interviewing here too. So I'm confident that I'll actually be able to have that weekly schedule that I originally planned for. So thank you so much to everyone who has been listening to the past shows. I've seen the numbers go up over the past couple of months, and I really greatly appreciate that. It's really awesome to see that, and to be able to hear any comments that you guys leave on the page is also really inspirational, and it just helps me continue to grow this podcast show that I really enjoy doing so much, being able to talk to people from the 209. Well, everyone, have a great morning or night whenever you might be listening to this, and we'll see you next week here on the 209 Journey podcast.